Hello, interwebs. Blogging411. Today we are talking about how to get it all done. You are a blogger. You are a business as a blogger. You are probably a person who has a lot of other responsibilities in your life too, whether that's being a partner to someone, a mother to someone, other activities you have, working full-time while you blog on the side. You've got a lot going on. So we are here today to talk about how to get it all done. And whether or not you can get it all done. I am Allison Carter. I am co-founder and managing director of the North Carolina Blogger Network, who hosts Blogging411 every other Wednesday, talking about all the topics you want to learn. And I'm going to talk and allow my co-host Tiffany to introduce herself.
Hi guys, it's me, Mrs. T from themrst.com, also known as Mrs. T Love Life Laughter. I'm also a co-host for Blogging411 and a regional ambassador for NCBN as well. And I can't wait to let you guys know how we actually managed to get it all done.
All right, so let's just start with the biggest question, Tiffany. Can we get it all done?
I don't know. I mean, we can try to get it all done. It's possible. Let's put it out there like that. It's possible. It may take a little bit of juggling time and rearranging things sometimes, but it is possible.
Awesome. Okay, well that is a hopeful thing. I kind of ebb and flow, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are like me, where you kind of go into the whole, I'm going to do it all, right? And you say yes to everything, and you're just like, I'm going to rock my blog, I'm going to knock the socks off of this, I am in it to win it. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, you're like, oh my God, I can't do all this, I can't do all this, I gotta get rid of stuff.
That's when the reality hits you. Like, you're like, yeah, I can do that, sure. Sponsored post, no problem. I got this. And you start scheduling them all out, and then you get like an influx or a rush where they're all due like around the same time. And you're just like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Why did I do all of this at once? And that is definitely where scheduling and using different tools comes in and helps out a lot. Like, I'm actually in the middle of a big influx of stuff I scheduled out a couple of months ago, and now I'm realizing, hey, wait, these things are all due like in the same time frame. Why did I do that like that? But that's where all those extra tools are coming in, and we're going to chat about those, right, Allison?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, let's just get right into it, because when it comes to scheduling, there are a whole lots of different things you need to schedule in order to manage your time. We talked with Phyllis in another Blogging411 episode about time bliss and kind of how she recommends scheduling out everything, and she uses Google Calendar, and she has an entire system for using Google Calendar. For me personally, I know that I've got to schedule my life as a person, and then I also have to schedule my blog, right? And those two are on different calendars for me personally. So I'm scheduling my calendar with my life and the soccer games that I've got to get to and the meetings that I've got to have and the conference calls that I'm going to be on and the conferences that I'm going to go to. And then I have a separate calendar where I'm managing all of my, okay, well, this sponsored post is coming up. I've got this campaign. I've got this linky party that I'm going to participate in or host. But that might be different for you. How do you do it, Tiffany?
Well, I found when I had two separate calendars, I would forget what was on one and then be like, oh my God, like in panic mode. So what I ended up doing is I used the Google, like my trusty iPhone, I used the Google Calendar that's on here, and what I did is I set up different color codes for my blog, for home, and then for kids' activities. So my blog is all purple. So when I look on my calendar, everything highlighted in purple, I know that's the blog stuff. Everything highlighted in red, that's my house. And I think green is like my kids' activities or whatever. So that way I can see like at a glance that nothing's overlapping, nothing's interfering with each other. And I also had to make sure Google Calendar has a great option where you can put like I'm busy. You can add it as a busy thing, or you can allow stuff to overlap on it. So if it's something from my blog that I know, okay, if I have to type this post up by 5 o'clock, I can't be at dance practice at 5 o'clock too. So I'll check off to mark that as busy. That way nothing overlaps. And if I do try to schedule something on top of it, it'll give me a little pop-up saying, okay, you know you have like something else going on here too. So that's how I kind of try to do that with as far as calendars and scheduling out between personal and blog and mommy life.
I think what Tiffany said is so nail on the head, right? Like, you have got to work in advance. That is just a tough, hard truth that I've learned the tough way. If you wait and you think, okay, well, the post needs to go live on Friday, I'll just go ahead and sit down Friday morning and bust that out. It is stress city. Yes, you can probably get it done. You can probably...
It's stress city, but that will be the one moment where the image doesn't load, it's not the right pixels, your site decides to drop out on you. Never, ever, ever wait until like a couple hours before something has to be up, because Murphy's Law will win over every single time. I have done it, and I've sat there in panic mode like, oh my God, these people are never going to use me again. And then like I pull it together, but the stress is just not worth it. Try to schedule it out, and I usually aim for at least 2 weeks out ahead of time, but a week, no longer than a week out. No less than a week out. Try to get your stuff scheduled done, so you don't have that extra stress that you don't even need.
And I know that that sounds crazy hard to a lot of people, probably most of us. It just sounds kind of impossible, but you'll find that once you start that, you're good, right? It's just getting into the habit and getting yourself to where you are working 2 weeks out. Because let's be honest, like to get yourself working 2 weeks out right now, you probably got to do 4 weeks of work. So
exactly. And that's where it starts. The beginning of it is going to be the hardest because you kind of have to double up to get in that 2 weeks out time frame. But once you get there, it'll feel like your normal time. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, yeah, I'm working on this for April, whatever, but to you it's normal because you've already set that pattern up and you don't have anything to worry about. The other good thing about working at least 2 weeks out is if life happens, which 9 out of 10 it always does, you have a bit of a cushion versus if you were working a couple of days out and your kid got sick, you would be like, oh my God, do I give my kid Tylenol or do I type a post? I don't know what to do. But when you have that 2 week cushion, you can say, okay, my kid is sick, so I still have like 5 more days before I have to work on this without getting too stressed out.
So do it, folks. Do it. Just like buckle down, lock yourself in the library for a couple hours or days, and just get yourself there so that you can be successful.
Definitely.
And set up your calendar. When it comes to tools to set up your calendar, I like pen and paper. We've talked about this a few times, but I have also seen the light with the Blogger Network using the CoSchedule app. And I talked about this in the virtual assistant episode that we did a couple weeks ago. CoSchedule app costs money, but it's uber cheap. And invest in your blog, invest in yourself. Your time is money. We'll get to that too in this episode. Don't let me forget to get to that.
I won't. Time is money.
The CoSchedule app can help you schedule in advance and see everything in one place, and also schedule your social media all within that. So as you're typing a post and as you finish the post right within your CoSchedule app, you can schedule your social media for that post, not just for that day, but for like next week, 2 weeks, 3 months, all that sort of stuff. So give yourself tools to make your time management better. We talked about Google Calendar, we talked about CoSchedule app, and I know Tiffany had some other ones that she wanted to bring up too.
Yeah, I often use Buffer. I use the free version, which kind of gives you a couple of limits on how many posts you can put out. I think it's about 10. But the thing with Buffer is you can pick which ones you want them to go to, which social media networks you want to highlight for each post. So what I do is when I write a post, I publish it, and then I just go into it from my own dashboard, and I buffer it out. I buffer it to Twitter, I buffer it to my LinkedIn account, I buffer it to Google+. I actually have 2 Google Pluses. I have a Google page as well as a Google profile. I buffer it out to both. And the key with Buffer is you don't schedule them all at the same time. Like, you don't want to just hit all your social media all at once. So what you do is you pick Twitter and say you schedule it for right when the post publishes. And then you pick Facebook and you schedule that for maybe 8 hours later. And then Google maybe the next day. So that's how I work my buffer schedules out a lot. I've also found that Buffer added a new feature where you can actually customize the schedules to pick and choose which posts go when and where. It used to just be you set a buffer schedule for every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 12, 5, and 7, and that's how all your posts would go. Now you can actually specify, I want this post to go at 2, and I want it to go at 5 on this different social media. So that's how I use Buffer. The other thing I use...
I'm going to jump in for just a second because something else. Something else I think that's awesome about Buffer, in addition to everything that Tiffany said, is the way that they will try to read your content and suggest other things that you might want to share. Because the thing to remember about social media that we've talked about a lot in Blogging411 and on the Blogger Network blog is that it's about community. You can't just be pushing your own stuff all the time, right? You have to provide value to your community. And so Buffer will actually recommend, like, here's something else that somebody tweeted that I think you might be interested in. And that's a really cool thing.
And that's within your audience's like interest areas. And also Buffer will also suggest those things. But by you sharing other people's content, other media's content, you also increase your own influence. Like your social media influence goes up the more you share. And it actually goes up a lot faster when you're sharing other people's content. Because that's the same thing I do with Clout. Clout will actually, you can take your Clout and you can go over there and they have a suggestions part. And when you take Clout and you take their suggestions, they actually survey your audience and give you, like, it's highlighted in yellow if it's your target audience, it's highlighted in red if it's going to be something that maybe you haven't mentioned before but they think is going to be good for your audience. But the bonus with Clout is they actually give you time frames that your audience is the most active. And that's where I go to Clout for a lot. Sometimes I go over there to check my active time frames without even using their content. Like, I'll use it to post over somewhere else. So if I go to Clout and I pick to use one of their suggested click it, and then under schedule it'll say your audience is most active on Tuesdays at 8:45 a.m. but then on Wednesdays they're most active at 8:45 p.m. So then you get a feel of when your audience is there to see the content you're actually sharing. Because, I mean, let's face it, guys, who wants to waste the time of sharing content and nobody's sitting there reading it?
Right, that is a waste of your time.
Exactly, it is.
Time management. So manage your time. You've got tools that are there. You've got smart tools that are telling you when is the best use of your time. And the beauty about these things that Tiffany is talking about is that you don't even have to be at your computer at the time that matter.
Nope, you don't have to be there at all.
Yeah, you can be tweeting out while you're at the soccer field, right? Like, you can set up your accounts, and that's going to help you manage that time. Another big thing to understand when it comes to time management is that you've got to know, just like Tiffany said, know when your audience is there and when to reach them. You've also got to know what matters for your blog, what makes you the money, and what grows you the audience, and then do not waste your time on the stuff that doesn't get you to those goals. And I know that's a hard one because we look at what other people are doing, or we look at where we want to go, or, you know, we have ideas about what we want to be, but we got to back up for a second and figure out what is actually working and spend time on those, and then let go of the things that aren't working.
Yeah, and I had to learn that kind of the hard way. Like, when I first started my blog, I was telling you earlier, I had affiliate links up to wazoo. Like, all my sidebars, everything was full of affiliates, and click here to buy this, and click here to play this app, and da-da-da-da. And then recently I did a rebranding and a redesign, and I was like, okay, that's actually really valuable property space on my site. Let me see if this is worth leaving that there. And when I actually looked into my affiliates, I was making like 10 cents every week or something. It wasn't balancing out. So I ended up ditching a bunch of affiliates and swapping it out for Google AdSense, which is like a bit of a better way to go if you really want clickable links that are going to give you money back. And I just swapped out for that, got rid of the affiliates that weren't getting me anywhere, and I have ad space now. I have a cleaner looking site. I have a cleaner looking design. And that also helped bring in different sponsors who were looking for that. Because sponsors don't want to give their content where it's just crowded and just busy and there's just stuff all over the place. So it ended up working out. I had to trade it off. It was a hard decision, but sometimes you have to make those.
And the other thing, too, to understand is that you can say no to things if it's about time management. So in addition to figuring out what works for you and spending the time on that, you know, if there's something that you know you need to be doing and you can't say no to it, like you have to tweet, You have to manage your social media. Consider getting a virtual assistant. We talked a lot about that in one of our most popular Blogging 411 episodes. So, figure out what you can outsource and is manageable for you to outsource, right? And then also feel free to say no to things. And this is a big thing. Your time is money. And if you know where you're making money now, if you're concentrating your efforts on the stuff that's actually making your blog money and growing your blog and growing your readership, if you're outsourcing the automated things and investing a little money in those so that your blog's making you more money, you got to know when to say no too. So if a post comes in or a brand comes in and they say, hey, I really want to work with you, I don't have anything to give you, it's okay to say no. Like, your blog space and your time, more than anything, is worth money. And if you're going to try to manage your time right, know what the value added is to being asked what to do and when to do something. If a brand comes to you and they say, I don't have anything to give you, but it happens to be your favorite brand in the world, for example, Athleta, if they came to me and they were like, we want you to do all this stuff, but we'll give you free clothes for 20 years, I'd say okay, but I know what the value added.
I'm down.
You gotta understand that you're putting real time and work and money into.
And you have to make sure they understand that too, because some of them that have approached me, I get the feeling from the way they approach that they don't really get what a blogger is. So they're just like, yeah, can you just do this? And you're like, okay, well, what's the compensation? And they're like, what? What compensation? But they don't get that it's work. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes thought. And if you want me to give you good content, then you should be willing to do something for it. And there's a way to say no to a company and still keep that relationship for the future if necessary. You can always say, like, hey, I really want to work with you guys, but now it's just not a really great time. My schedule is booked up. Can you reach out to me if you have anything else that you see will fit my blog? I mean, I have like a template letter for denials of requests, and so like it's just different ways to approach it. Like I had an aunt who told me one time you could call somebody a dog right to their face if you say it nice enough. So it's just all in the how you give it out there. A company could come to me with something and I'm like, in my head I'm probably like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. But on paper I'm like, oh, this was so awesome. Thank you so much for thinking of me, and I can't do it right now, but I'd love to do it later. You know what I mean?
We're gonna have to put that form letter into our membership courses.
I have a couple of them. I have to tweak them sometimes for certain companies, but I mean, there's a way to say everything.
Absolutely, and once you've got a brand's interest, you've got their interest, and so even if you don't necessarily want to say no to the brand, or if they are offering you money, come back to your time management and look at your calendar, and if it's just a bad time for you and you know you're not going to be able to manage the campaign well, look at your calendar and just say, you know what? It's the holidays, and it's a totally wacky time for me. However, I appreciate you contacting me, and Tiffany will give you a form letter about working with them next time. But you've got to empower yourself and realize that you have something that people want with your blog, and your time is valuable and worth it.
Exactly. Exactly. It's all about knowing what you're worth and standing firm on that. Don't bend and go back and forth. Stand firm on it and demand what you know you're worth.
And one of the other things I think that is really important to time management, and that's really hard for bloggers or anybody who's in social media or social media management, is that you have just got to set office hours. And I have learned this the hard way too, but it is so...
I stink at setting office hours.
It's so hard to do because especially if your blog is more of the creative writing outlet, which is mine is, I'll be like, oh, I feel this right now. I've got to sit down and write this right now. And in the meantime, like, my children are hanging from the ceiling fans and dinner's burning, and my husband's like, oh my gosh, we're supposed to be somewhere in 20 minutes. Like, you've got to know that creative spark within you might be able to be captured by jotting something down really quickly on a piece of paper.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. My notes app in my phone is my best friend. I have written outlines for posts. Like, as I'm in the car with my husband, I'm like, oh, this is going to make a great post. And I'll just, like, jot down, like, all the key points so that by the time I get home, even if I totally forgot what I wanted to do, I can read those couple of points and be like, oh, I remember, and then I just get it out there. So, I mean, it is a creative side of you, but you can, like, fence it a little bit and, like, okay, I can't write right this moment, but I can have the time to jot down 5 key points so that when I do have the time to write the full thing, I know what I want to say. So, I mean, yeah, notes apps and pieces of paper, and yeah, I've even voice recorded a couple of times. Like, if I just had it in my head and I was driving and I couldn't think of it, I'd just be like, hey, don't forget, write a post about blah, 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 and I had it to go to later.
Oh yeah, I've emailed myself and texted myself when about, like, dear Allison, write a post on this. Love, Allison.
Another one that's great for saving, like, post drafts and stuff is Evernote. Evernote is amazing. It syncs across all your devices. So if I'm in the car and I type in Evernote a half a post, I can get home and pull up on my laptop that same half a post and continue writing with no interruptions. So Evernote is another one you guys should definitely look into, and it's free, so it's awesome.
And here's another big thing about time management. When you do set those office hours, know when you're writing and creating, and know when you're social media working, and know when you're blog designing, and know when you're tweaking things that you have long-term projects, right? Because I know you all do it. I know you all do it. I do it too. You sit down, like, I'll set my office hours. I'll get up early in the morning before my kids, and I sit down on my computer. I'm like, I'm so going to bang out my posts for 2 weeks from now. I'm like, I'm going to get them done. Oh, what's going on Facebook? Oh my God, they had their baby. I should totally buy them a gift. And next thing you know, like, you're done, right? You're gone. You're off. And you
2 hours wasted, and all you've done is said hey to everybody on Facebook, told them I'm getting ready to bang out these posts, and then that's all you've done is wrote a status about how you're about to write your post, but you haven't done anything. Yes, we have all got caught by the Facebook, Twitter distractions, but the way I get that and don't do that is I don't even open those tabs until I finish doing whatever I said I was going to sit down and do. I don't open Facebook. I put my phone, like, because sometimes I'll be on the laptop and I'm good because I don't have them open, and then I'll see, like, oh, so-and-so just tweeted me. Wait, let me check. No, I put the phone, like, across the room somewhere, and then you sit there and you bang out what you have to bang out. My kids say, Mommy's typing. I type, get all my stuff done. Then I open the Facebook and the Twitter and conversate and social media. But it can be really hard. It can be hard. But you can do it. And that's what we're telling you.
And if you feel like you just don't have that self-discipline, there are timers. There are Google Chrome extension timers that will block you if you've been on something for too long. They will track how much time you're spending on something. And if you just need that to get you out of the habits of checking into that social media and getting in there and spending too much time on it, install those extensions. I mean, just do it. Help yourself be better at managing your time so that you can get it all done at the end of the day. And the other thing, too, is make lists. I know I'm a huge fan of making lists, and it might drive everyone in my house batty because I have a list for everything. Like, this is a list of what we're going to do today, and this is a list of what we're going to do next week, and this is a list of what we're going to do. But sometimes the time management thing is so difficult because you know you've got all these ideas in your head and they're circulating, and you're just feeling overwhelmed because you're saying, I know I've got to get all this stuff done. Write those things down and then track what's a now item, what's a today item, what's a tomorrow item, and what's a next week or next month item. And write those down for yourself so that you're tracking where your priorities are and where your priorities will be in another week or another month.
Yes, to-do lists are my best friends. And again, they're all in my phone. And I have, like you said, I have to-do, and then I have, like, I separate it with a line, and then I'm like, okay, this is to be done, but it doesn't have to get done right this second kind of thing. And the thing about a to-do list is when you get to check it off, it's just like you rewarded yourself. Like, every time I, like, cross something out or delete it, I'm like, yay! I hear the whole and applause behind me because I just completed a task. It's, like, so awesome. And I think that's, like, the main reason I write to-do lists, to get the chance to check it off and say I did it.
Oh my gosh, yes, at the end of the day, that feeling is so great to check that off.
And then when you go to check the list and it's blank and you're like, wow, I rock, I did it all.
That's when they play songs for you in the background.
Yes, the fanfare. Oh.
And the other thing, too, is I'm going to be really blunt, guys. Like, if you want to get it all done and you want to commit to this and you're going to have the lifestyle of trying to make it as a blogger, or if you've already made it as a blogger, maintaining. If you're working on content marketing for your company because you want to grow your business and you're also trying to do all this other stuff on the side, you can't be lazy. Like, you just can't. And you can schedule yourself time, or you can say to yourself, you know what, tonight's just going to be my night to sit down and watch, you know, HGTV reruns or The Bachelor. Like, this is my night to do that. But what you can't get into is the habit of being lazy. And this is just to be really blunt. You've got to know what motivates yourself, how much time you need to recoup and feed your soul and relax, and just be there with your family, and when you're going to work.
Exactly, because sometimes you have to schedule in that bit of rehab, which is flashing back to a episode we did a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes a blogger does need those moments to just not blog, but at the same time, don't extend it too far, because then you just can't get back into the mode of doing what you have to do. I mean, it's necessary, but you also have to be smart about it.
Yeah, you have to feed your soul, and that's, like Tiffany said, that's what we talked a lot about with NJ in one of my favorite episodes ever, because it felt so inspirational afterwards. And there's a reason why you need to take time for your soul and your hobbies, and certainly your family and the people that matter. But the fact is that when it comes to getting stuff done, and if you look at the people and you say, wow, they get a lot of stuff done, these are the people who are on top of things, right? They have their lists, they have their schedules, and they're getting it done. Like, they're not
always moving, they're doing something. And that's what I was going to say too, I almost forgot. Sometimes to get myself motivated, just the getting up and getting dressed as if I was going somewhere will help put me in that mindset, like, okay, today we're going to do A, B, C, and D. But the times where I'm like chilling in my yoga pants or my jammy pants, and I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to drink this cup of coffee and then I'll blog that later. That's where you get that lack of motivation. But sometimes just getting up as if you're doing what you're going to do, it helps. It seriously helps a lot.
Yeah, and not to say there aren't days that are hanging out in your pajama pants are good, but if you're going to get all this stuff done, the honest truth is that, you know, you got to get it done, right? Mm-hmm. And if you get to the point where, and I know we're getting towards the end of our time, because we try to keep these to 30 minutes, because we're, you know, your time is valuable, and you're probably managing your time.
And you got other stuff to go get done. After you finish here, go get it done.
But you know what? If you do get to the point, and we have all been there, and I've been there too, I've been on the giving end of this and the receiving end of this, if you get to the point where you can't get it all done, and no matter how you schedule and how you have your list, you are overwhelmed and your to-do list is off the charts, you've got to reconvene. You've got to step back and say, okay, what isn't working, because I'm scheduling and I'm working this stuff out and it's just not getting done and I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed. You've got to take a step back and say, what needs to go? What can I do? And this gets back into the whole know your priorities, right? What are your priorities? What are your goals? What are going to get you there? And take a step back.
Exactly. Is everything I have on this list actually something that's taking me further to my end goal? Like, if this thing here is not taking me a step ahead, then maybe I need to take it off. Like, it's okay to revamp your list, to revamp what your goals are, because sometimes that's where the overwhelming and the stress comes in. You just got too much, and maybe you've been saying yes too much. So say no a couple of times, trim the list down, and go get it done.
And I guarantee if you go to somebody and you're like, I know I made this commitment, but I am so sorry, I just can't do it right now. Maybe even give them a little bit of why, or maybe you don't. That's up to you depending on how well you know them, but just say it's just not a good fit right now. People get it. Other people are human too. What you cannot do is just not do it.
Exactly. They'd rather you tell them something than just flake out.
So be honest, you know, grab your bravery, show up or call them or email them even and just say, dear so-and-so. Maybe we'll put a form letter for that too in our members.
Yeah, we're going to have to find that one. I'm so sorry. I can't do this right now. I'll try to think one up.
So guys, We know you've got a lot on your plate. We know you got a lot to do. We know that you guys are blogging your hearts out and sharing your life, and we love you for that, and we love you so much for taking the time out to spend every other Wednesday doing a little bit of Blogging 411 learning and opportunity time with us. We hope you'll check out the network. Hope you'll spend some time with our other Blogging 411 episodes, and we're going to talk next time about when to rebrand yourself. When do you need to know that it's time to redesign? And we will talk to you then. Thanks so much.